What is up, everybody? It is your boy Jason. We are back here with another video. I've been seeing a crap ton of YouTubers ranking their Marvel movies, their MCU movies. There's 20 of them now, so I'm going to hop on that bandwagon and we're going to rank them out here. I'm not going to get in-depth descriptions with them. That's not going to happen because we'll have like a 3-hour video in that case, and I'm not going to do that. But we are going to do a quick why I didn't like it, why I did like it, 20 to 1. Starting with 20, so let's hop right into it. Starting off with the only Marvel movie I truly did not like from almost beginning to end, and that is Iron Man 3. It just didn't work for me. The twist didn't work, the plot didn't work, the story didn't work. Robert Downey Jr. was great. He's fantastic as Tony Stark, but this movie just did not work for me. It is the only MCU movie that I don't like at all. At number 19 is Iron Man 2. It's such a shame because Robert Downey Jr. does such a good job in these movies. He is phenomenal as Tony Stark. I mean, he's probably the centerpiece of the MCU right now. But as Iron Man 2 goes, I liked half of it, and I didn't like this other half. I mean, the movie just lost a lot of its flow in the middle. I thought it really just went downhill. It didn't work for me. But there were enjoyable parts, so it's not like I really hated this movie from start to finish. There were some parts I really enjoyed, but still, it's number 19 on my list. Every movie from here on out I actually thought was pretty entertaining. Yes, I had problems with them, and yes, there are some things I didn't like, but I actually liked every movie from 18 going all the way up to number 1. So starting with 18, or I guess going with 18, that is the first Thor movie. Chris Hemsworth, he brings Thor to life in this movie, and you know, a lot of people wondered, like, how are we going to bring Thor, a god, to the big screen? Well, let's take away his powers first, and let's show the human side of him, the emotional side of him, so the characters can kind of relate, so the audience can relate, and we can jump right into it. And I thought they did a fairly good job with this movie. Yeah, there were a few things I would have done differently, but overall, Thor was a pretty good movie. So I do have it ranked at 18, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie because the MCU has done such a great job that an 18 ranked movie can be a good movie. 17, The Incredible Hulk. This was before Mark Ruffalo took over. This is Edward Norton, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, there wasn't a story that took chances. There wasn't much to the story. It was just a guy who raged out when his heartbeat went over 200, and loved a good woman, and I thought the villain was pretty cool. It was awesome to see the big fight scene in the street. I thought that was really cool. So at 17 is The Incredible Hulk for me. 16 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Overall, it was cool to see Baby Groot. It was cool to see the gang back together again. One of the things that I don't like in a movie is when humor feels too forced. I don't mind forced humor, but when it feels too forced. So that's why this movie came down on the list a little bit for me. I did enjoy it. The plot was cool, the story was cool, the acting was good. It was just a little bit of that forced humor that dropped down. Still a good movie. At number 15 is another movie which I thought was good, but had a little too much forced humor for me. Overly forced humor, and that is Thor Ragnarok. Again, Chris Hemsworth does a phenomenal job as Thor. This movie is good. They did have a lot of funny moments. The action was cool. It was cool to see Thor really just come together at the end. I mean, I'm not going to spoil any movie for you, but it was really cool. Just a little too much forced humor. I still really like the movie. So Thor Ragnarok is at 15 for me. So 14. We already talked about the first two Thor movies, or not the first two, the first and the third. So let's talk about the second one. Coming in at 14 is Thor: The Dark World. This movie, actually, I think gets a little too much hate. A lot of people don't like this movie. It is not a great movie by any means, but I don't think it's as bad as some people made it out to be. Yes, there are some boring parts in this movie, but overall, I found it pretty entertaining and a good story, and I enjoyed the little twist in it. Number 13 for me was the second big team up in the MCU, and that is Avengers Age of Ultron. No, this did not live up to the hype the first one had, but it was still amazing and really fun to watch. Age of Ultron was cool. They introduced Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, which one of them didn't exactly make it. We got to see Ultron, who wasn't as badass as I thought he was going to be, wasn't as dark as I thought he was going to be. I thought he was a little too many one-liners, which is why it's a little bit low down my list. But still, good movie. I enjoyed it. Coming in at number 12 is the first AntMan movie. Yes, this movie had a few problems getting off the ground. Edgar Wright was supposed to do it, then he didn't do it. But Paul Rudd really does a good job of grasping this character. He does a phenomenal job as Ant-Man. The casting in this movie is really good. The story is enjoyable. They don't take many chances, but it is funny and is very enjoyable. I like this movie. It is really, really good. Coming in at number 11 is one of my favorite castings in the MCU, and that's saying a lot because the MCU kills their casting. It is amazing. But one of my favorite castings is Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, and I really enjoyed this movie. It was cool seeing like all the little twists and the mind-blowing visuals that happened in this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch was great. I mean, he's a great actor, so there's no surprise that he was great in this part. Coming in at number 10 for me is the first Captain America movie, Captain America the First Avenger. This trilogy, this Captain America trilogy, is one of the best trilogies of all time. I'd put it in one of the top 5 trilogies of all time. It is really good. It's up there with the Godfather trilogy. It's up there with the Dark Knight trilogy. It's up there with the Planet of the Apes trilogy. It is a really good trilogy, and they do a very good job of introducing this character to the world, showing them what he was like before he became the Captain America as we know him, and how he kept that integrity after. I mean, it was a really good movie. Captain America the First Avenger did a really amazing job of bringing us into the world of Captain America. And coming in at number 9 is the newest MCU movie, and that is Ant-Man and the Wasp. He wasn't in Infinity War. A lot of people want to know what was going on. We know now, and this movie to me was better than the first one. It was enjoyable. It was funny. Paul Rudd was great again. They had a villain that actually had a deep emotional connection. One of the things I always thought Marvel did not the best thing was with their villains. But lately, especially in 2018, they've stepped up the game. I thought all 3 of their villains have been great this year. Ant-Man and the Wasp's villain is no exception. Really, really good movie. And it was definitely... Marvel continues their run of dominance with this movie. Number 8 is the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I did not think this movie was going to be good. I actually thought it was going to be bad. I said this is going to bomb for Marvel. It's going to be their first big bomb. James Gunn, Chris Pratt, all of them, Dave Bautista, Zoe Saldana, all of them were like, that's not going to happen. This movie will be good. It was. It was hilarious getting introduced to all these characters. It worked out really well. I'm sorry, I was wrong. This movie is great. Number 7, for the first time, out of all the Spider-Man movies, I felt like we had a real high school Spider-Man. Not to say I didn't like Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire. I think they both did a good job in their roles. But Tom Holland mastered and nailed the role of Peter Parker in Spider-Man for me. I loved this movie. I felt like a kid again. I felt like I was back in high school. I felt like I was reading a comic book. Spider-Man Homecoming was great, and I definitely wanted to put this one higher on my list because I love it so much, but these movies that are going to come after are good movies. I mean, they're really good. So with that being said, number 6 is the movie that started it all off for the MCU, Iron Man. As I said earlier, Iron Man 3 and Iron Man 2 were 20 and 19 on my list. That doesn't take away from the fact that Iron Man 1 was great, and a lot of people put it as one of the top 10 superhero movies of all time, and I would not blame them. This pioneered this amazing universe that MCU did with Robert Downey Jr. I mean, you really can't say anything bad about this movie. They did a phenomenal job from start to finish. Robert Downey Jr., man, his role, how he did as Tony Stark is just crazy good, and I loved every second of it. Now, moving into the top 5, number 5 is the first time we got to see these heroes all on screen together and a team up, and that is Avengers. It lived up to the hype. It 100% did. It was great. Joss Whedon for bringing this movie together. All the actors and actresses, the casting was great, the story was great. I thought they played the story a little safe, which was the exact thing they needed to do with this movie. I didn't want them to take too many chances and have an opportunity of maybe this movie not turning out good. They did exactly what I thought they should have, and that is why this movie is so good. Avengers comes in at number 5. Number 4, we just talked about the Avengers coming together. Now let's talk about the breakup. Number 4 is Captain America Civil War. This is the 3rd movie in the Captain America trilogy, and it is great. Amazing. I loved it. This is where we start getting into, like, these movies now are like 5 out of 5 type movies. Very, very good. I loved Captain America Civil War. It had me on the edge of my seat throughout the movie. It gave you everything you wanted from this. Even that airport battle scene. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, it should have been bigger. I thought it was great. Start to finish, Civil War is one of the best Marvel movies, which is why it is number 4 on my list. And I just said that Captain America, the Captain America trilogy, is one of my favorite trilogies, top 5 of all time. We talked about the first one. We talked about the third one. Let's talk about the second one. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, comes in at number 3 on my list. This movie overall is probably the best movie Marvel has put out. Now, this is a list of like my favorite Marvel movies from start to finish that kept me entertained and etc. other things. But when it comes to filmmaking, acting, story-wise, I think this is probably the best movie from start to finish Marvel has. It is great. This movie really, it's not like an average superhero movie. It's like a spy movie with betrayal and stuff that's all dressed into him being a superhero at the same time. It is very good. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is number 3 on my list. Number 2. 2018, like I said, has been a phenomenal year for Marvel as the MCU continues its run of dominance, and Black Panther really, it was amazing. I've even seen some people say it's overrated. It is not overrated. Black Panther is great. Michael B. Jordan brings, at the time, the best Marvel villain, the second best now, the best Marvel villain, so at the time, Chadwick Boseman brings T'Challa to life. I mean, this movie is beautiful. The cinematography is beautiful. I think that's one of the things that is slept on about movies these days, is the cinematography. The cinematography in this movie is better than any MCU movie so far. Ryan Coogler, great job putting this movie together. All the great actors and actresses. Black Panther is a 5 out of 5, and in my opinion, one of the best Marvel movies so far, and my second favorite. And this one should come as no surprise, but my number 1 favorite Marvel movie is Avengers Infinity War. Yes, it lived up to the hype. 10 years of build-up for this movie to see Thanos in action, to see the Avengers come together to stop this guy, and it lived up to every bit of hype. I actually had to see this movie twice. I've seen it 3 times, but I need to see the movie a second time. Not because it's hard to understand, but because so much happens in every single scene. This movie was insane from start to finish. That first time we see Thanos to the last time we see Thanos. It is a Thanos movie, don't get me wrong. It says Avengers, but this is a Thanos movie, and it lived up to the hype. The Russo brothers, bravo for bringing this movie together. It was great, and it is my favorite Marvel movie so far. So we'll leave it at that. We've been talking for a long time. Like I said, I could talk about these movies forever, get in depth about the actors, actresses, directing, filmmaking style, the cinematography, the score, everything. We're not going to do that because we'd be here forever. So that is my top 20 list of the MCU movies, the 20 that are out now. What do you guys agree with? What do you guys not agree with? Tell me in the comments below. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to start vlogging again soon. I'm telling you, these Japan vlogs are going to be great. And have a great morning, day, or night, wherever in the world you are, at whatever time you're watching this.